Welcome to Wife Cheating Story. I hope you have an enjoyable and relaxing time listening. Let's get started.
We're incredibly grateful for your support. Before we begin today's tale, tell us, which city or country are you joining us from? We love connecting with our global audience. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. The Unraveling. The acrid smell of burnt toast pierced through the Miller household's usual morning tranquility. Silas Miller stood motionless at the kitchen counter, his muscular frame tense as he stared at the blackened bread. His weathered hands, calloused from 15 years of wielding weapons and training in combat, gripped the edge of the marble countertop. The burnt breakfast wasn't what bothered him. It was the growing void between him and his wife, Brielle. He heard the shower running upstairs, Brielle's morning routine as predictable as ever. Her phone lay on the kitchen island, screen dark, but holding secrets he'd soon discover. The past few months had been different. The warmth in her eyes had dimmed, replaced by a calculated distance that set off every warning bell in his combat-trained mind. Silas picked up his coffee mug, the black liquid inside as bitter as his thoughts. Their relationship had changed, morphed into something unrecognizable. He remembered their college days, him in criminology, her in fashion merchandising. They'd been unstoppable then, two ambitious souls with clear visions of their future. The shower stopped. Silas remained still, listening to the familiar sounds of Brielle's movements above. Her footsteps, the opening and closing of drawers, the soft thud of her makeup bag on the vanity. A notification sound cut through the silence. Brielle's phone screen lit up, and Silas's eyes caught the message preview. "Can't wait to see you tonight, my muscle god." The words burned into his retinas. His grip tightened on the mug, knuckles white with tension. The Marine in him kicked in immediately. Assess, analyze, plan. He set the mug down with deliberate control, though his insides churned with rage. Upstairs, Brielle hummed to herself, unaware of the storm brewing below. Silas heard her designer heels clicking on the hardwood, coming closer. He straightened his spine, years of military discipline masking his turmoil. Morning, Brielle breezed past him, her perfectly styled blonde hair bouncing with each step. She wore a crimson designer dress that hugged her curves, an outfit that cost more than most people's monthly salary. The scent of her expensive perfume lingered in the air. "Morning," Silas replied, his voice neutral. He watched as she moved around the kitchen, her actions precise and deliberate, avoiding his personal space as she had done for months now. "Burnt toast again," she commented, wrinkling her nose at the smell. "You should let me buy that fancy toaster I saw at Williams-Sonoma." Silas said nothing, observing how she barely glanced his way, how her shoulders tensed when he moved closer to pour more coffee. The woman before him was a stranger wearing his wife's face. "I'll be home late tonight," Brielle announced, typing something on her phone. "Big project at work. The boutique chain expansion?" Silas asked, knowing it was a lie. "Yes, exactly that." She grabbed her designer bag, still not meeting his eyes. "Don't wait up." As she walked toward the door, Silas spoke again, his voice carrying the authority that had commanded troops in combat zones. "Brielle." She paused, her hand on the doorknob. "Yes. Be careful out there. People aren't always what they seem." A flicker of uncertainty crossed her face before she covered it with a practiced smile. "Of course. Have a good day." The door closed behind her, and Silas stood alone in the kitchen. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number he hadn't used in years. "Matt? It's Silas. I need your help." Meanwhile, across town at the Iron Temple gym, Jax Thorne admired his reflection in the mirror as he performed his morning workout routine. His massive arms bulged with each curl, veins prominent under his tanned skin. At 32, he was at his physical peak, though the needles and vials hidden in his gym bag told the true story of his impressive physique. "Looking huge today, Jax," a young trainer called out as she passed by with a client. Jax flashed his trademark smile, the one that had graced numerous fitness magazine covers. "Always got to stay ready for the camera, sweetheart." He set down the weights and checked his phone, smirking at the message he'd sent earlier. Brielle Miller, his latest conquest. She was different from his usual type, more sophisticated, with a brain to match her beauty. The fact that she was married to a retired Marine only added to the thrill. The gym's owner approached, a clipboard in hand. "Jax, got those new client consultations lined up for you today." "Cancel them," Jax replied, wiping his face with a towel. "Got a special appointment tonight." "Again? That's the third time this week." Jax's expression darkened. "You got a problem with how I handle my schedule?" The owner backed off immediately, recognizing the dangerous glint in Jax's eyes. No problem. I'll get someone to cover for you." Alone again, Jax returned to admiring his reflection. His life was a carefully constructed image of success, built on a foundation of steroids, manipulation, and charm. The foster homes, the poverty, the rejection, all buried beneath layers of muscle and bravado. He grabbed his phone again, typing out another message to Brielle. "Reservations at 8. Were something sexy?" The response came quickly. "Can't wait. Having trouble focusing at work thinking about you." Jax grinned, imagining her husband's face if he knew what was happening. The retired Marine probably thought he was still in control of his perfect little life. The thought made Jax laugh as he headed to the showers. The day crawled by for Silas. He spent it gathering intelligence, falling back on his military training. Matt had already begun digging into Jax's background, and the preliminary findings painted an interesting picture. Multiple assault charges. Matt's voice crackled through the phone. All dropped mysteriously. "Guys got connections in the local scene. Keep digging," Silas instructed. "I want everything: financials, associates, dirty secrets. Leave no stone unturned." "You got it, brother. What are you planning?" Silas's voice was cold. "Justice." Evening arrived, and Silas watched Brielle prepare for her work meeting. She'd chosen a black dress that revealed more than it concealed, her makeup heavier than usual. "Don't wait up," she repeated her earlier words, grabbing her keys. "I won't," Silas replied, his tone making her pause for a moment before she hurried out. He waited 10 minutes before following her, his movements silent and precise. The training that had kept him alive in war zones now served a different purpose. He tracked her car through the city streets, maintaining a safe distance. The Italian restaurant she pulled up to was high-end, the kind of place that required reservations weeks in advance. Silas parked across the street, watching as she checked her reflection in her car's mirror before heading inside. Through the restaurant's large windows, he saw her approach a table where Jax waited. The man stood to greet her, his muscled frame dwarfing nearby diners. Their embrace lasted too long, their familiarity evident in every gesture. Silas's jaw clenched as he watched them together. Every laugh, touch, intimate glance was another betrayal. He observed them ordering wine, sharing appetizers, their heads close together as they spoke. His phone buzzed. Another message from Matt. "Found something big. Steroid distribution ring. Your boy Jax is neck-deep in it." Silas texted back. "Send everything you have." Inside the restaurant, Brielle leaned closer to Jax, her hand on his arm. "I feel terrible lying to Silas." "Why?" Jax scoffed. "Guy's living in the past. Probably still thinks he's some big-shot Marine. Meanwhile, his wife's with a real man." "It's not that simple," Brielle protested weakly. "We have history. History doesn't keep you warm at night, baby." Jax reached into his pocket. "Speaking of which," he pulled out a small velvet box, sliding it across the table. Brielle's eyes widened as she opened it, revealing a diamond ring that made her wedding band look modest in comparison. "Jax, I want you to leave him," Jax declared. "Tonight. You deserve better than some washed-up soldier who can't even make toast without burning it." Tears welled in Brielle's eyes as she slipped the ring onto her right hand. "It's beautiful, just like you." Jax's voice dropped lower. "I'll take care of everything. The divorce, the money, all of it. Just say yes." Before Brielle could respond, a shadow fell over their table. They looked up to find Silas standing there, his presence commanding attention without a word spoken. "Silas." Brielle's voice cracked with panic. "What are you doing here?" Jax stood up, his steroid-enhanced frame attempting to intimidate. Well, the cuckold finally figures it out. Silas's eyes never left Brielle's face. "Is this what you've been doing? All those late nights at work?" I can explain," Brielle stammered, her composure crumbling. "No need." Silas's voice was terrifyingly calm. "The ring explains everything." Jack stepped closer, his muscles flexing. "Why don't you do yourself a favor and leave before things get ugly?" Silas finally turned to look at him, and something in his eyes made Jax take a small step back. "Funny, I was about to suggest the same thing to you." "Listen here, you pathetic excuse for a man," Jax growled, reaching for Silas's shoulder. "Walk away now, or leave in an ambulance." The move was lightning fast. Before Jax could blink, Silas had grabbed his wrist, twisted it at a painful angle, and delivered a devastating right hook to his jaw. The bigger man stumbled backward, crashing into the table. Brielle screamed as dishes shattered on the floor. Other diners jumped up, phones recording the scene. Jax tried to regain his footing, but Silas's boot connected with his ribs, dropping him to his knees. "All those muscles," Silas spoke quietly, almost conversationally, "and not one of them trained for actual combat." Security rushed forward, but Silas was already walking away. He paused beside Brielle, who sat frozen in her chair. "Enjoy your dinner," he said, his voice devoid of emotion. "I'll have my lawyer contact you tomorrow." As he walked out of the restaurant, leaving chaos in his wake, Silas's mind was already moving to the next phase of his plan. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. The Marine in him had awakened, and with it, a cold determination to make them both pay for their betrayal. Behind him, he could hear Brielle's sobs and Jax's cursing. The sounds meant nothing to him now. In war, you learn quickly that mercy to your enemies meant death. This wasn't a physical battlefield, but the principles remained the same. He pulled out his phone as he reached his car. "Matt, time to release everything we found. Burn their world to the ground." Chapter 2, The Confrontation. The Italian restaurant's ambient lighting did little to soften the tension that crackled through the air. Silas Miller sat at a corner table, his military training evident in how he positioned himself. Back to the wall, clear view of all exits. He watched as his wife, Brielle, touched Jax's arm, her wedding ring catching the light mockingly. From his vantage point, Silas could see every detail of their intimate dinner. The way Brielle leaned in when Jax spoke, how her fingers lingered on his arm, the shared glances that spoke of secrets and betrayal. His anger simmered beneath a practiced calm, years of combat discipline keeping him focused. "You were late today, my love," Jax's voice carried across the restaurant. "Did the has-been of a husband bother you?" Brielle's laugh, once a sound that had warmed Silas's heart, now cut like a knife. "Oh, he has no clue, Jax. No idea at all." Silas's hand tightened around his water glass, but his face remained impassive. He watched as Jax reached into his pocket, producing a small velvet box. Brielle's excited squeal drew attention from nearby diners. "I will buy your freedom, my love," Jax declared, his voice dripping with arrogance. "But you have to do it now. He's just a waste of your talent and beauty, just a weakling, and I can't stand him for another second." The look of pure adoration on Brielle's face as she gazed at Jax made Silas's stomach turn. "I will do it for you, Jax. You're the only one who understands me." Silas had seen enough. He stood, his movement deliberately slow and controlled. The distance between their tables seemed to shrink with each step. He noticed how Jax's hand possessively covered Brielle's, how the new ring gleamed on her finger. Brielle saw him first. The color drained from her face, her perfect makeup unable to hide her shock. "Silas, what are you doing here?" Jax turned, his steroid-enhanced physique tensing for confrontation. A sneer spread across his face as he sized up Silas. Well, seems the cuckold decided to show up. Why don't you do yourself a favor and leave? You are a pathetic human." Silas ignored him completely, his attention fixed on Brielle. "Is this what you've been up to, Brielle?" His voice carried the same tone he'd used to interrogate enemy combatants. Quiet, controlled, deadly. Brielle couldn't meet his gaze. Her hands trembled as she reached for her wine glass. Jax, interpreting her silence as weakness, stepped forward aggressively. "Be a good boy and run away before I hurt you," he bellowed, drawing more attention from other diners. His face reddened with rage when Silas didn't flinch. "Walk away now or leave in an ambulance," A cold smile crossed Silas's face, one that had preceded violence in war zones across the world. Option C. I show you why 15 years of combat training beat steroids. The right hook came without warning. Jax's head snapped back, his bulk working against him as he lost balance. Before he could recover, Silas's boot connected with his ribs, the crack audible over the restaurant's music. The bigger man went down hard, his muscled arms flailing uselessly. Brielle screamed, her chair scraping back as she stood. Other diners scattered, some filming with their phones, others rushing for the exits. Jax tried to get up, but another precise strike from Silas sent him sprawling again. All that muscle, Silas observed clinically, and you can't even take a punch. Pathetic. Restaurant security finally arrived, but Silas was already backing away. He paused beside Brielle, who stood frozen between tables. You made your choice, he said quietly. Now you'll live with it. Outside, the night air carried the sounds of approaching sirens. Silas walked calmly to his car, his mind clear despite the adrenaline coursing through his system. He pulled out his phone, dialing a familiar number. Matt? It's done. Start the next phase. Back in the restaurant, chaos reigned. Jack sat on the floor, blood trickling from his split lip, his ego bruised more than his body. Brielle hovered nearby, torn between helping him and running after Silas. That bastard. Jack spat blood onto the expensive carpet. He's dead. You hear me? Dead. Brielle barely heard him, her eyes fixed on the door where Silas had disappeared. She'd never seen that side of him before. The cold, efficient warrior beneath the quiet exterior had finally shown himself. The realization of what she'd done, of who she'd betrayed, began to sink in. Ma'am, a restaurant manager approached cautiously. The police are on their way. Would you like us to call you a cab? Before she could respond, Jax grabbed her arm roughly. We're leaving. Now. They stumbled out through the kitchen exit, avoiding the growing crowd at the front. Jax's breathing was labored, his hand pressed against his ribs where Silas had kicked him. His usual confident swagger was gone, replaced by a wounded animal's desperate movements. Get in the car, he commanded, pointing to his customized sports car. When Brielle hesitated, his voice turned threatening. Now! As they drove through the city streets, Brielle's mind raced. The evening had spiraled so far from what she'd imagined. She glanced at Jax's profile, seeing for the first time the ugliness beneath his perfect exterior. How did he know? Jax muttered, hitting the steering wheel. How the fuck did he know? Jax, maybe we should... Shut up, he snapped. Just shut up. I need to think. Brielle sank back into her seat, her hand unconsciously touching the new ring on her finger. What had seemed romantic hours ago now felt like a brand of shame. Chapter 3. The Aftermath. The spare bedroom in Matt Ramirez's apartment smelled of electronics and coffee. Silas sat on the edge of the bed, his phone silent, but his mind racing. The events at the restaurant played on repeat in his head, each detail analyzed. Matt appeared in the doorway, his lean frame silhouetted by the blue glow of multiple computer screens behind him. You okay, brother? I'm fine, Silas replied, his voice steady. What have you found? Matt moved to his workstation, pulling up multiple windows of information. Your boy Jax isn't just dealing steroids. He's part of a larger operation. Got connections to some serious players in the underground scene. Silas nodded, unsurprised. And Brielle? She's been busy. Matt's fingers flew across the keyboard. Multiple secret accounts, unusual transfers. Been siphoning money from her company's expense accounts for months. The revelation hit Silas like a physical blow, but his face remained impassive. Show me everything. As Matt laid out the evidence, Silas's tactical mind began formulating plans. Each piece of information was a weapon, each secret a potential strike point. The Marine in him recognized this as another type of warfare, one fought with information instead of bullets. There's more. Matt hesitated. They've been meeting for longer than you thought. Hotel receipts, restaurant bills. It's been going on for at least 6 months. 6 months. The time frame aligned perfectly with Brielle's growing distance, her late nights at work, her sudden interest in fitness and health clubs. Silas had noticed the signs, but had attributed them to stress from her job. Her parents involved in any of this? Silas asked, remembering his in-laws' barely concealed disdain for his military background. Matt grinned. Oh, you're gonna love this. Dear old dad's real estate empire, built on fraud and bribes. Mom's charity foundation, front for money laundering. Keep digging. Silas stood, stretching his combat-hardened muscles. I want every detail. Weakness, pressure point. What's the plan? Silas's expression darkened. They wanted to destroy what I built. Now I'll show them what real destruction looks like. Across town, Brielle sat alone in her car, outside her parents' mansion. She'd left Jax at his apartment, unable to bear his increasingly erratic behavior. Her phone showed dozens of missed calls from work. News of the restaurant incident had already spread. She jumped at a tap on her window. Her mother, Elizabeth, stood there in designer sleepwear, concern etched on her surgically perfected face. Darling, what's wrong? Why didn't you call? Brielle burst into tears as she got out of the car, falling in her mother's arms like a child. Between sobs, she recounted the evening's events. Inside the mansion's opulent sitting room, Elizabeth poured 2 generous glasses of wine, while Brielle's father, Richard, paced the imported marble floors. This is unacceptable, Richard fumed. That military brute attacking people in public. I'll have my lawyers. He knows, Daddy, Brielle interrupted. About everything. About Jax, about the money. Money? Elizabeth's perfectly manicured hand froze midway to her lips. What money? Brielle's voice dropped to a whisper. I've been taking from the company accounts to help Jax with his business ventures. The silence that followed was deafening. Richard's face turned an alarming shade of red. You did what? He finally managed. Do you have any idea what this could do to our reputation? To my business? I'm sorry, Brielle sobbed. I didn't think. No, you didn't think? Richard exploded. That low-class musclehead has been using you, and you've been too blind to see it. Elizabeth set down her wine glass with a sharp clink. Richard, please. Shouting won't help. Nothing will help if this gets out. Richard collapsed into an armchair. Everything we've built. Meanwhile, at his apartment, Jax paced like a caged animal. The bruises from Silas's attacks were darkening, his ribs screaming with each movement. He doubled his steroid dose, the chemicals fueling his rage. His phone buzzed, a message from his supplier. Meeting. Tomorrow. Urgent. Jax hurled the phone against the wall. The humiliation of being beaten by Silas, a man he dismissed as a washed-up soldier, burned worse than any physical pain. He caught his reflection in the mirror. The perfect physique he'd built, the image he'd crafted, all shattered by a few precise strikes. I'll kill him, he muttered, pulling out a fresh vial of steroids. I'll fucking kill him. The needle slid into his flesh with practiced ease, but his hands shook with anger. In his mind, he was already plotting revenge, unaware that Silas was several steps ahead, methodically preparing to dismantle everything he held dear. Back at Matt's apartment, Silas stood at the window, watching the city lights. His phone displayed a photo of happier times. Him and Brielle on their wedding day, both smiling, both innocent of the pain to come. With a decisive movement, he deleted the photo. The man in that picture, the one who believed in second chances and forgiveness, was gone. In his place stood a warrior who'd learned the hard way that betrayal demanded retribution. Matt, he called out, start the protocols. It's time they learned what real warfare looks like. As dawn approached, 3 lives teetered on the edge of destruction. Brielle, seeking refuge in her parents' wealth. Jax, drowning in steroids and rage. And Silas, calculating his next moves. The battle lines were drawn, an act I drew to a close with the promise of devastation to come. Chapter 4. The Unraveling of Brielle's World. The morning sun illuminated the executive office at elite fashion boutiques, where Brielle sat reviewing quarterly reports. Her manicured nails tapped nervously against the mahogany desk as she tried to focus on the numbers before her. The events at the restaurant still haunted her thoughts, but she forced herself to maintain her composed exterior. A knock on her door interrupted her concentration. Come in, she called out, straightening her designer blazer. Her assistant, Sarah, entered with an unusual expression. Ms. Miller, The board requests your immediate presence in the conference room. Brielle's stomach tightened. Did they say what for? No, ma'am. But Mr. Davidson from Internal Audit is there. The walk to the conference room felt like a march to execution. Brielle's heels clicked against the marble floors, each step echoing her growing dread. She pushed open the heavy doors to find the entire board seated around the table, their faces grave. CEO Thomas Richardson sat at the head, a thick folder open before him. Please sit down, Brielle. She took her seat, noting the presence of two unfamiliar men in suits. Corporate security, she realized with growing horror. We've received some troubling information, Richardson began, his voice cold. Our auditors have uncovered significant discrepancies in your expense reports dating back 6 months. He pushed several documents across the table. Brielle's blood ran cold as she recognized the transaction records. Hotel bills, restaurant charges, spa treatments, all carefully disguised as business expenses. Care to explain why the company paid for a weekend at the Grand Plaza Hotel when no business meetings were scheduled? Brielle's mind raced. There must be some mistake. No mistake, the head auditor interrupted. We have security footage, receipts, everything. You've been systematically defrauding the company. Richardson's voice cut through her panic. We're suspending you immediately pending a full investigation. Corporate security will escort you to clear out your office. You can't do this, Brielle protested. I've given 10 years to this company, and you've betrayed our trust, Richardson replied. Be grateful we haven't called the police. Yet, in her office, Brielle's hands shook as she packed her personal items into a box. Her phone buzzed, a text from Jax, need to talk. Now. Across town at the Iron Temple, Jax faced his own nightmare. The gym owner, Marcus, stood in his office doorway, tablet in hand. What the hell is this? Marcus demanded, turning the screen toward Jax. The local news website displayed a damning headline. Popular trainer linked to steroid distribution ring. Jax's face reddened. It's bullshit. Someone's trying to smear me. Really? Marcus scrolled through the article. Because they've got documentation. Police reports, witness statements, bank records. Hell, they even have photos of you making exchanges in the parking lot. Marcus, come on. We've been friends for years. No, we've been business partners. And now you're toxic. Marcus tossed a letter onto his desk. You're terminated, effective immediately. Clear out your locker and don't come back. Jax grabbed the letter, crumpling it in his fist. You can't do this to me. I built this place's reputation, and now you're destroying it. Get out before I call security. In the locker room, Jax punched his locker repeatedly, denting the metal. His phone kept buzzing. Sponsors canceling contracts, clients dropping his services, reporters requesting comments. His carefully constructed world crumbled around him. He yanked open his gym bag, pulling out a vial of steroids. His hands trembled as he prepared the injection, nearly doubling his usual dose. The familiar sting of the needle brought little comfort. This is him, he muttered. That fucking Marine. He's behind this. At Matt's apartment, Silas monitored the chaos through multiple computer screens. Matt's fingers flew across keyboards, orchestrating the systematic destruction of their targets' lives. Brielle's company took the bait, Matt reported. Board meeting lasted exactly 12 minutes before they suspended her. Silas nodded, his expression unchanged. And Jax? Local news ran the steroid story. His gym fired him, and I've got confirmation that 3 major sponsors have terminated his contracts. More will follow. Good. Silas stood, stretching his combat-hardened muscles. What about the surveillance? Matt switched screens, showing multiple camera feeds. Got eyes on both of them. Brielle's heading home. Jax is still at the gym, having what looks like a breakdown in the locker room. Keep watching. They'll try to contact each other soon. The prediction proved accurate. Within hours, Brielle's car pulled into the parking lot of Jax's apartment complex. She found him pacing his living room, steroid vials and syringes scattered across the coffee table. What's happening? She demanded. How did they find out about everything? Jax grabbed her arms roughly. Your husband. He's destroying us. Silas? But how could he? Wake up. Jax shook her. He's not just some dumb grunt. He's got help, resources. We need to hit back. Brielle pulled away, rubbing her arms where Jax's fingers had dug in. Hit back how? We've lost everything. Not everything. Jax's eyes held a dangerous gleam. I've got connections. People who can help us hurt him. Jax, no. Violence isn't the answer. He laughed, the sound harsh and unnatural. Violence is the only answer. Look what he's done to us. Back at Matt's apartment, Silas reviewed the surveillance footage. They're planning something stupid, he observed. Matt nodded. Want me to dig deeper into Jax's connections? No need. Let them make their move. It'll give us more ammunition. You sure that's wise? Jax is unstable, pumped full of steroids and rage. Silas's expression remained cold. Good. Unstable opponents make mistakes. And when they do, we'll be ready, Matt finished. The day wore on, and Brielle returned to her empty house. She walked through the rooms, noticing for the first time how many of the expensive items had been purchased with stolen money. Her phone kept ringing. Her parents, her friends, reporters. She ignored them all. In her closet, she ran her hands over designer dresses, each one now feeling like a noose around her neck. The ring Jax had given her sat heavy on her finger, no longer a symbol of freedom, but a mark of her downfall. She picked up a framed photo from her nightstand, her wedding day with Silas. They looked so happy, so in love. What had she done? How had she thrown it all away for someone like Jax? The phone rang again. This time she answered. Brielle? Her mother's voice was tight with anxiety. Have you seen the news? The company's filing charges against you. What? No, they said. It's all over the business pages. Darling, what have you done? Brielle sank on her bed, reality crushing down on her. Mom, I need help. We can't. Your father is furious. He says you've embarrassed the family. But I'm your daughter, and we have our own reputation to protect. I'm sorry, darling. You're on your own? The line went dead. Brielle stared at her phone, tears streaming down her face. In just 24 hours, her entire world had imploded. At a downtown bar, Jax met with a man named Victor, a former client with connections to less savory elements of society. You want to hurt this guy? Victor asked, nursing his whiskey. It'll cost you. Jax slammed his fist on the bar. I don't care about the cost. I want him to suffer. Careful, Victor warned. Your reputation's already in the gutter. You sure you want to add assault charges? Add whatever you want. That bastard needs to pay. Victor studied him for a moment. You're not thinking straight. The steroids are making you crazy. Are you helping me or not? Fine. But when this goes bad, and it will, don't say I didn't warn you. Throughout the city, the wheels of destruction continued turning. News outlets picked up the story of Brielle's corporate fraud. Social media exploded with speculation about Jax's steroid ring. Their carefully constructed facades crumbled piece by piece. And in the center of the storm, Silas watched and waited, knowing the worst was yet to come. He'd learned in combat that the most dangerous moment wasn't the initial attack. It was when a wounded enemy lashed out in desperation. Matt monitored their target's movements, noting patterns and vulnerabilities. They're both spiraling, he reported. Jax's steroid use has doubled. Brielle's burned through her savings, trying to maintain appearances. Good, Silas replied. Let them feel what it's like to lose everything. You're not worried they might do something desperate? Silas's expression remained unchanged. I'm counting on it. Chapter 5. The Escalation. The pounding on Matt's apartment door echoed through the hallway. Through the security camera feed, Silas observed Brielle standing outside, her designer outfit wrinkled, her makeup smeared with tears. Please, Silas, she called out. I know you're in there. We need to talk. Matt glanced at his friend. Want me to get rid of her? No, Silas stood. I'll handle this. He opened the door, but remained in the doorway, blocking her entrance. Brielle looked up at him, her composed facade cracking. What's happening? She pleaded. Why are you doing this? You know exactly why. Silas's voice carried no emotion. You made your choice, Brielle. Now face the consequences. I was confused. She reached for his arm, but he stepped back. Jax was exciting, different. But I never meant. Never meant what? Silas cut her off. Never meant to steal from your company? Never meant to humiliate me? Never meant to get caught? Tears streamed down her face. Please, they're pressing charges. My parents won't help. I have nowhere else to go. You have Jax, Silas reminded her coldly. Your muscle god who promised to buy your freedom. How's that working out? Silas, I'm sorry. I'll do anything. That's your problem, Brielle. You'll do anything for anyone who gives you attention. You're pathetic. The words hit her like physical blows. I was your wife. And now you're nothing to me? He stepped back inside. Goodbye, Brielle. The door closed with finality. Through the camera, they watched her collapse against the wall, sobbing. Matt whistled low. Harsh, brother. She deserves worse. Silas returned to the computers. Any movement from Jax? Yeah, about that. Matt pulled up a video feed. He's been meeting with some interesting people. The footage showed Jax in a dimly lit bar, talking intensely with a man Silas recognized. Victor Petrova, small-time criminal, thinks he's bigger than he is. They're planning something, Matt warned. Want me to dig deeper? No need. Let them come. As if on cue, the perimeter alarm blinked. Security cameras showed Jax approaching the building, his steroid-enhanced frame moving with barely contained rage. Right on schedule, Silas observed. Matt, go to the backup location. I'll handle this. You sure? Guys hopped up on enough steroids to kill a horse. Good. Makes him sloppy. Jax didn't bother with subtlety. He tried to kick in the door, only to find it reinforced. Security lights flooded the hallway, momentarily blinding him. Come out, you coward, he roared. Face me like a man. The door opened, revealing Silas standing calmly in the doorway. Breaking and entering now? Jax? Adding to your criminal record? Jax charged forward, swinging wildly. Silas stepped aside, letting momentum carry his attacker past him. A precise strike to Jax's kidney dropped the larger man to his knees. All that muscle, Silas commented, delivering another calculated blow. And you still fight like an amateur. I'll kill you. Jax scrambled to his feet, pulling a knife. Silas's expression didn't change as he disarmed Jax with practiced ease, twisting the knife from his grip and using the bigger man's momentum to slam him into the wall. You could have walked away, Silas spoke quietly as he systematically took Jax apart. Could have left town, started over. But you had to prove something. Each strike targeted weak points, joints, pressure points, areas where steroid use had made Jax vulnerable. The bigger man's rage made him predictable, his enhanced strength useless against Silas. Finally, Jax lay groaning on the floor, his face bloody, his ego shattered once again. Silas stood over him, as calm as when the fight began. Consider this your final warning, he stated. Come near me again, and they won't find your body. Police sirens wailed in the distance. Matt's doing, no doubt. Silas left Jax there, knowing the police would find an ex-con with a knife, trying to break into an apartment. Later, at their backup location, Matt reviewed the security footage. That should keep him occupied for a while. Assault with a deadly weapon, attempted breaking and entering. He'll make bail, Silas noted. His ego won't let him stop. That's what you're counting on, isn't it? Silas nodded. People like Jax can't handle losing control. He'll keep escalating until he destroys himself. And Brielle? She's already destroying herself. Her parents' reputation means everything to them. Once we release what we found about their businesses, Matt pulled up multiple documents on his screens. Speaking of which, you want to see what Daddy's been hiding in his real estate empire. The evidence was damning: bribes, kickbacks, fraudulent permits. Elizabeth Miller's charity foundation was equally corrupt, laundering money through fake donations and inflated expenses. Release it, Silas commanded. All of it. To whom? Everyone. Police, IRS, FBI, media. Let them tear each other apart trying to save themselves. The next few days brought chaos. News outlets ran exposés on the Miller family's corruption. Federal agents raided Richard Miller's offices. Elizabeth's society friends distanced themselves as investigators dug into the charity's books. Brielle watched her family's destruction from her empty house. Calls to her parents now met with lawyers' voices. Her own legal troubles multiplied as the company's investigation uncovered more evidence of her fraud. Jax, released on bail, spiraled further into steroid-fueled paranoia. His remaining clients abandoned him. His supplier cut him off, fearing police attention. He spent hours in his apartment, injecting increasingly dangerous amounts of steroids, plotting revenge against the man who destroyed his life. Neither of them realized they were merely puppets in Silas's greater plan. Each desperate action, each attempt to fight back, only provided more ammunition for their destruction. In the digital command center he'd established with Matt, Silas watched their worlds burn. The Marine in him recognized this as psychological warfare. Breaking the enemies will fight by destroying everything they valued. You know they'll snap eventually, Matt observed. People can only take so much pressure. I'm counting on it, Silas replied. Let them come, together or separately. Doesn't matter. And then they'll learn why you don't betray a Marine. The pieces were in place, the trap set. All that remained was to wait for his targets to make their final, fatal mistakes. Chapter 6. The Web Titans. Richard Miller paced his luxurious office, phone pressed to his ear as he barked orders at his lawyers. Stacks of documents covered his desk, financial records, bank statements, permit applications, each one a potential landmine in the federal investigation. I don't care what it costs, he snapped into the phone. Make this go away. A knock interrupted his tirade. His secretary stood in the doorway, face pale. Sir, the FBI is here. With warrants. Agents flooded the office, boxes in hand. The lead investigator approached his desk. Mr. Miller, step away from those documents. This is harassment. Richard blustered. I'll have your badges for this. Save it for your arraignment, the agent replied, signaling his team to begin gathering evidence. We have quite a paper trail on your activities. Across town, Elizabeth Miller faced her own crisis. The Charity Foundation's board had called an emergency meeting, and she sat surrounded by angry faces. The evidence is irrefutable, the board chairman stated. Millions in donations, redirected to personal accounts. Shell companies receiving consulting fees. What do you have to say for yourself? Elizabeth's carefully maintained composure cracked. I can explain. Save it for the prosecutors. Another board member cut in. We're dissolving the foundation immediately. At Matt's surveillance hub, Silas watched the Miller empire crumble. Multiple screens showed federal agents at various properties, Elizabeth being escorted from the foundation offices, reporters swarming both scenes. Their accounts are frozen, Matt reported. House, cars, everything under investigation. They won't be able to help Betrayal even if they wanted to. Speaking of Betrayal, Silas nodded toward another screen, showing his wife's desperate face as reporters cornered her outside her lawyer's office. Ms. Miller, is it true you stole from your company to fund your affair? Did you know about your parents' illegal activities? What do you say to allegations that you helped launder money through the fashion boutiques? Betrayal pushed through the crowd, her designer sunglasses failing to hide her distress. She fumbled with her car keys, hands shaking. Her phone buzzed, Jack's calling again. She answered, desperate for any support. Have you seen the news? His voice was frantic, slurred. They're coming after all of us. Jax, please, I can't. Meet me. Now. We need to plan. Plan what? It's over. My career, my family. That bastard did this. Jax's voice rose to a shout. He's ruining everything. Meet me at my place in an hour. No excuses. At Jax's apartment, the scene was chaotic. Empty vials littered the coffee table, papers scattered across the floor. Jax paced manically, his skin flushed, veins bulging unnaturally. We have to strike back, he ranted as Betrayal entered. Hit him where it hurts. How? Betrayal collapsed onto his couch. He's taken everything. Not everything. Jax pulled out his phone, showing messages from Victor. My contacts are ready. We just need money. Betrayal laughed bitterly. Money? My accounts are frozen. My parents are under investigation. I can't even pay my lawyer. What about jewelry? Designer stuff? Anything we can sell? She twisted her wedding ring, the only valuable piece she had left. The irony wasn't lost on her. Meanwhile, Silas and Matt monitored their desperate planning. Matt had planted bugs in Jax's apartment weeks ago, capturing every word. They're getting desperate, Matt observed. Jax's steroid use is making him unstable. He's dangerous. Good, Silas replied. The more unstable he becomes, the easier our next move will be. Which is? Let them dig their own graves. The surveillance feed showed Jax grabbing Brielle's arm roughly. You're not backing out now. This is your fault too. You're hurting me. Hurting you? That Marine is destroying us. And you're worried about a little pain? Silas watched him passively as Jax's true nature emerged. The facade of charm stripped away, revealing the violent core beneath. Should we intervene? Matt asked as Jax's grip tightened on Brielle's arm. No, she chose this. Let her see exactly what she chose. Brielle wrenched free, backing toward the door. You're crazy. The steroids have made you insane. Don't you walk away from me. Jax lunged for her, but his steroid-impaired coordination made him stumble. She fled, leaving him raging in his apartment. Through the surveillance feed, they watched him destroy his own furniture in a drug-fueled rampage. His supplier cut him off, Matt reported. He's running low on steroids, mixing with other drugs. He'll snap soon. And Brielle? Another screen showed her in her car, makeup streaking with tears. She pulled into a hotel parking lot, the only place she could afford now. Running out of options, Matt noted. Her lawyers threatening to drop her case. Corporate fraud charges are pending. The fashion industry's blacklisted her. Increase the pressure, Silas commanded. Release the second wave of evidence to the media. Within hours, new headlines appeared. Fashion executives affair. Inside the corporate fraud scandal. Miller family corruption. A web of deceit. Steroid ring investigation widens. Celebrity trainer named Kingpin. Brielle's phone buzzed constantly. Journalists, former friends, debt collectors. Each call twisted the knife deeper. Her perfect world had shattered completely. Jax, spiraling in his drug-induced paranoia, made endless calls to his underworld contacts. But with his money gone and his reputation destroyed, even the criminals wanted nothing to do with him. From their command center, Silas and Matt watched the destruction unfold. Each desperate move by their targets only tightened the web around them. The police are building cases, Matt reported. Corporate fraud for Brielle. Drug distribution and assault for Jax. The feds have enough on her parents to put them away for years. Silas nodded, satisfaction cold in his eyes. This wasn't just revenge, it was justice served. He learned in combat that victory wasn't just about defeating your enemy. It was about making sure they could never rise to fight again. They'll make one last move, he predicted. Something desperate, something stupid, and we'll be ready? We've been ready since the beginning. The screens showed their targets' parallel descents. Brielle alone in a cheap hotel room, stripped of wealth and status. Jax in his ruined apartment, consumed by drugs and rage. Neither understanding they were merely pieces in Silas's greater strategy. The former Marine watched it all, his expression unchanging. In war, he'd learned that mercy to enemies was a weakness. In this private war, he would show no mercy. The web had tightened, and his targets were exactly where he wanted them, desperate, isolated, and ready to make their final, fatal mistakes. Act 2 concluded with the stage set for their final destruction. Silas had systematically stripped away everything they valued. Wealth, status, reputation, family, hope. All that remained was to watch them destroy themselves in their desperate attempt to strike back at the man who'd orchestrated their downfall. Chapter 7. The Brink. Brielle sat alone in her cheap motel room, staring at her reflection in the spotted mirror. Her designer clothes hung loose on her frame, her perfectly maintained appearance now a ghost of its former self. The TV droned in the background, another news report about her family's corruption scandal. Her phone lay silent on the bed. No calls, no messages. Her social circle had evaporated the moment her disgrace became public. Even her emergency credit cards had been declined, the accounts frozen by federal investigators. A knock at her door made her jump. The motel manager stood outside, his expression unsympathetic. "Rent's due, Ms. Miller. Card was declined again. I just need one more day," she pleaded. "I'm expecting some money." "That's what you said yesterday. Out by noon, or I call the police." She closed the door, sliding down against it. Her hand brushed against her designer handbag, worth thousands when she bought it, now worthless at the pawn shop she'd visited yesterday. Her phone suddenly buzzed. Jax's number. She answered, desperate for any connection. Where the fuck have you been? His voice was slurred, aggressive. I've been calling for hours. Jax, I can't. I'm being kicked out of the motel. I need help. Help? He laughed, the sound unhinged. We're way past help, baby. That Marine bastard's destroyed everything. But I've got a plan. What plan? There's nothing left to. Meet me at Victor's place. 1 hour. Don't be late. The line went dead. Brielle stared at her phone, dread pooling in her stomach. She'd seen the changes in Jax over the past weeks. The increased steroid use, the paranoia, the violent outbursts. Across town, Jax paced Victor's cramped apartment, his massive frame making the space feel smaller. Empty vials and needles littered the coffee table. You're using too much, Victor warned, watching Jax prepare another injection. That much juice will fry your brain. Shut up. Jax's hand shook as he pushed the needle in. I need to be strong. Need to be ready. Ready for what? That Marine's already kicked your ass twice. Jax hurled the empty vial at the wall. He caught me off guard. This time's different. This time I'll break him. How? Guys always 10 steps ahead. Look what he did to your life, to the girl's family. We grab his friend. Jax's eyes gleamed with drug-fueled mania. The hacker. Matt. Make him suffer. Draw Silas out. Victor shook his head. You've lost it, man. That's suicide. You helping or not? No way. I'm not getting involved in kidnapping a Marine. Jax grabbed Victor's throat, steroid-enhanced muscles bulging. You're already involved. Make the calls. Give me what I need. At their surveillance hub, Silas and Matt monitored the conversation through hidden microphones. He's deteriorating fast, Matt observed. Mix of steroids and street drugs. Guy's a walking time bomb. Silas watched the video feed impassively. Good. Fear and drugs make people stupid. Make mistakes. He's serious about coming after me. No, he's serious about dying. Silas's voice held no emotion. He just doesn't know it yet. Another screen showed Brielle leaving the motel, her possessions stuffed into a single bag. The former fashion executive now wore bargain store clothes, her designer items long since pawned. She's heading to Victor's, Matt reported. Want me to interfere with her rideshare? No. Let them meet. Let them plan. The more desperate they become, the easier our final move will be. The feed showed Brielle arriving at Victor's building, her usual confidence replaced by nervous glances over her shoulder. The lobby camera caught her flinching at her own reflection in the elevator doors. In Victor's apartment, Jax's pacing had become more frenzied. His skin was flushed, veins standing out unnaturally across his steroid-enhanced muscles. Finally, he grabbed Brielle's arm as she entered, yanking her inside. What took you so long? Jax, you're hurting me. She tried to pull away, seeing the wild look in his eyes. What's wrong with you? Wrong with me? He laughed manically. Everything's wrong. That bastard took everything. My career, my sponsors, my life. Victor watched from the corner, shaking his head. Man, you need to chill. You're spiraling. Shut up. Jax rounded on him. You're either with us or against us. Choose now. Brielle saw the needles on the table, the empty vials. Jax, you're not thinking straight. The drugs. I'm thinking clearer than ever. He pulled her close, his grip bruising. We're going to make him pay. All of us. Together. How? Brielle's voice shook. He's destroyed everything. My family's under investigation. My accounts are frozen. We take what matters to him. Jax's eyes held a dangerous gleam. His friend Matt. The one who helped him ruin us. Kidnapping? Brielle gasped. That's insane. We'll go to prison. We're already going to prison. Jax shouted. Corporate fraud, drug charges. They've got everything. At least this way, we heard him back. In their command center, Silas and Matt exchanged glances as they listened. They're actually planning it, Matt said. Should we call the cops? Not yet, Silas replied. Let them dig deeper. I want everything on record. The surveillance feed showed Jax laying out his plan. Incoherent, drug-fueled ravings about revenge and justice. Brielle sat rigid on Victor's couch, fear evident in her posture. This isn't right, she whispered. We can't. Can't what? Jax loomed over her. Can't fight back? Can't hurt the man who destroyed our lives? This isn't fighting back. This is suicide. Jax backhanded her, sending her sprawling. You've always been weak, just like your parents, folding as soon as things got tough. Victor stepped forward. Hey man, take it easy. Jax spun, fist connecting with Victor's jaw. You too? All of you cowards? The feed showed Jax's complete breakdown, attacking both Betrayal and Victor in a steroid-fueled rage. Furniture shattered, walls dented from thrown objects. Now, Matt asked, hand hovering over the phone. Now, Silas confirmed. Make the call. Police sirens wailed in the distance as Jax continued his rampage. Betrayal crawled toward the door, blood trickling from her split lip. Victor lay unconscious by the overthrown coffee table. Nobody leaves? Jax grabbed Betrayal's hair, dragging her back. We finished this. We kill them both. The door burst open. Police tactical unit, weapons raised. Freeze! Hands where we can see them. Jax roared, charging the officers. The taser hit him mid-stride, his massive frame crashing to the ground. Even then, the cocktail of drugs in his system kept him fighting as they subdued him. Betrayal sobbed in the corner as paramedics checked her injuries. Her perfect world, already in ruins, had just shattered completely. At their hub, Silas watched it all unfold. Phase 1 complete. Phase 1. Matt looked up from his monitors. What's Phase 2? We finished this? Tonight. Outside Victor's apartment, police loaded a handcuffed, raving Jax into a patrol car. Betrayal sat in an ambulance, giving her statement to detectives. Neither of them realized they were still just pieces in Silas's greater plan. The former Marine stood from his monitoring station, checking his weapon with practiced efficiency. Time to end this game. Chapter 8, The Showdown. The abandoned warehouse loomed against the night sky, its empty windows like vacant eyes. Silas moved through the darkness with practiced silence, each step calculated, each position carefully chosen. Matt's voice crackled in his earpiece. Targets approaching from the south. Looks like he managed to slip his police escort. Right on schedule, Silas replied softly. What's his condition? According to the police scanner, he attacked 2 officers, stole a car. He's armed, grabbed one of their sidearms in the struggle. Perfect. The warehouse had been Silas's choice. Remote, controlled sight lines, multiple exit points. He'd spent days preparing it, knowing Jax would eventually come looking for a final confrontation. Heavy footsteps echoed through the empty building. Jax stumbled in, his massive frame silhouetted by distant streetlights. The stolen police pistol wavered in his grip. Come out, you coward! His voice boomed off metal walls. Face me. Silas's voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Still charging in without thinking. You never learn. Jax fired wildly at the sound, bullets ricocheting off steel beams. I'll kill you. You hear me? Kill you. Like you killed your career? Silas moved silently between shadows. Your reputation? Your future. Shut up. Another wild shot. You destroyed everything. No, Jax. You destroyed yourself. The steroids, the drugs, the violence. You were a bomb waiting to explode. I just lit the fuse. Jax's laughter echoed manically. Big talk from a man hiding in the dark. What's wrong? Afraid to face me man to man? Afraid? Silas emerged into a shaft of light, standing calmly as Jax whirled to face him. I've faced real warriors in real combat. You're just a gym rat with delusions of adequacy. Jax roared, charging forward with the gun raised. Silas moved like liquid, deflecting the weapon and striking precise points on Jax's steroid-enhanced frame. The bigger man staggered, his drug-addled coordination no match for Silas's trained reflexes. Too slow, Silas commented, delivering another precise strike. Too predictable. I'll show you predictable. Jax swung wildly, his massive fist whooshing through empty air as Silas ducked under it. All that muscle, another strike, all those steroids, a precise blow to the kidney, and you still fight like an amateur. Jax stumbled, his breathing ragged. The cocktail of drugs in his system was taking its toll, his movements becoming more erratic. Stand still and fight, he screamed, firing the gun again. The bullet grazed Silas's arm, but the Marine didn't flinch. That's your problem, Jax. You think strength equals power. A lightning combination of strikes dropped Jax to his knees. The gun clattered away into the darkness. Real power, Silas continued, his voice cold, comes from discipline. Control. Things you never understood. Jax tried to rise, but his legs wouldn't cooperate. I'll kill you, he slurred. Kill you and that hacker friend? No, you won't. Silas's next strike was precise, devastating. You won't hurt anyone ever again. The big man collapsed, his steroid-enhanced body betraying him as the drugs and exhaustion took their toll. This is where it ends, Silas stood over him. Not with your revenge fantasy, but with you broken and alone. Do it then, Jax spat blood. Finish it. Death would be too easy. Silas zip-tied Jax's hands. You're going to live with what you've become. Every day in prison, you'll remember this moment. Police sirens wailed in the distance. Matt's doing, right on schedule. One last thing, Silas pulled out his phone, dialing a number. Time for the final player to see her handiwork. Betrayal arrived 20 minutes later, escorted by police after Silas's anonymous tip. She found Jax unconscious, battered, his massive frame looking somehow smaller in defeat. Oh God, she whispered, backing away. What have we done? Silas emerged from the shadows. You chose this, Betrayal. Both of you. Now live with it. She turned to him, tears streaming down her face. Silas, please. Save it. His voice could have frozen fire. The police have everything, the kidnapping plan, the assault, all of it. Enjoy prison, both of you. He walked away as police flooded the warehouse, leaving his wife and her lover to face the consequences of their choices. In his ear, Matt's voice reported movement of police units, federal agents, news vans, all arriving to document the final fall of Betrayal Miller and Jax Thorne. The game was over. Justice, cold and complete, had been served. Chapter 9, The Price of Betrayal. In the aftermath, Silas stood in his new apartment, watching multiple news channels cover the story. Betrayal's booking photo showed her broken, stripped of makeup and designer clothes. Jax's mug shot displayed the wreck he'd become, his steroid-enhanced physique already beginning to fade in custody. They're not getting bail, Matt reported from his computer station. DA's using our evidence to charge them with conspiracy, attempted kidnapping, assault, drug trafficking. The whole list. And her parents? Feds seized everything. They're looking at decades for the financial crimes alone. Silas nodded, satisfaction cold in his chest. He'd dismantled their entire world, piece by piece, leaving nothing but ruins. The news showed Betrayal being led into court, reporters shouting questions. Ms. Miller, did you help plan the kidnapping? Was this revenge for your company firing you? What do you say to allegations of corporate fraud? She looked tiny, vulnerable, nothing like the confident woman who'd once commanded fashion empires. Her lawyer tried to shield her from cameras, but the damage was done. In another window, footage showed Jax being transported to county jail. The former fitness icon was a shell of himself, the mixture of drugs and defeat evident in his vacant expression. You know they'll talk, Matt said. Try to make deals. Let them. Silas's voice held no concern. Everything they say just proves what they are. Traitors, criminals, failures. He turned from the screens, his mission complete. The anger that had driven him these past weeks faded, replaced by a cold satisfaction. What now? Matt asked. Now? We move on. Find other battles worth fighting. The news continued reporting. Fashion executive Betrayal Miller faces multiple felony charges. Former fitness celebrity Jax Thorne held without bail. Miller family empire crumbles amid federal investigation. Each headline was another nail in their coffin, another victory in Silas's campaign of destruction. He'd achieved what he set out to do. Not just revenge, but complete annihilation of those who'd betrayed him. The Marine in him recognized this as a successful operation. The objective had been achieved, the targets neutralized, all without compromising his own position. You know, Matt observed, some might say this was excessive. Some haven't been betrayed by those they trusted most. Silas checked his weapon one last time before storing it. They chose their path. I just made sure they reached the end of it. The screen showed Brielle's parents in court, their empire in ruins, their reputation destroyed. The fashion company had filed additional charges, ensuring their former executive would never work in the industry again. Jax's fitness empire had crumbled completely. His supplements pulled from shelves, his training certificates revoked, his steroid suppliers rounded up in federal raids. He faced decades in prison, his body already showing signs of withdrawal. This was justice, cold, complete, and unforgiving. Silas had emerged stronger, while those who'd wronged him lost everything. No regrets? Matt asked quietly. None, Silas replied. They declared war the moment they chose betrayal. I just fought better than they did. The sun set on the city as news channels continued reporting the fallout. Silas watched the coverage with detachment, knowing his mission was complete. In the county jail, Brielle sat in her cell, the reality of her new life crushing down on her. Her designer clothes replaced by an orange jumpsuit, her manicured nails now brittle and broken. The other inmates whispered about her, the socialite who'd fallen so far. Miller, visitor, the guard's voice echoed through the block. Her lawyer sat across the glass partition, his expression grim. They're offering a deal. 20 years if you testify against your parents and Jax. 20 years, her voice cracked. But I didn't. You helped plan a kidnapping, Mrs. Miller. That's after the corporate fraud, the money laundering through your parents' foundation. Take the deal. It's the best you'll get. In another part of the facility, Jack slumped in the medical ward. His body, deprived of steroids, had begun to shrink. Withdrawal symptoms left him shaking, vulnerable, everything he'd feared becoming. The DA wants to make an example of you, his court-appointed lawyer explained. Steroid distribution, assault, conspiracy to kidnap. They're pushing for maximum sentences. Jack stared at his trembling hands. That bastard. He planned all of this? Focus, Mr. Thorne. You're looking at 40 years unless you cooperate. Meanwhile, at their new operational base, Silas and Matt began planning their next mission. The skills they'd honed destroying Brielle and Jax could serve a greater purpose. Got an interesting case, Matt said, pulling up files. Corporate whistleblower being threatened. Could use our help. Silas studied the information. Sounds worth investigating. You sure you're ready? After everything, the past is done. We leave it buried with them. The news played one final update. Brielle's tearful courtroom confession. Jax being led away in chains. The Miller family empire being dismantled piece by piece. Silas watched without emotion, knowing his vengeance was complete. He'd emerged from betrayal not broken, but harder, stronger, more focused. The naive man who trusted too easily was gone, replaced by someone who understood the true cost of disloyalty. They never understood what they were dealing with, Matt observed. No, Silas agreed. They thought I was just another victim to use and discard. They learned differently. The screen showed Brielle's parents being led into federal court, their assets seized, their empire destroyed. Everything they'd built through corruption now served as evidence against them. Jax's former gym had been sold, his name stripped from the building. His supplements were recalled, his training certificates revoked. The fitness icon had fallen, never to rise again. And Brielle, once the fashion executive, the socialite, the unfaithful wife, now faced decades behind bars. Her betrayal had cost her everything. Family, freedom, future. This was justice as Silas saw it. Not swift, not merciful, but complete and irrevocable. He'd handled betrayal the way he'd handled combat, with precision, patience, and absolute commitment to the objective. Ready to move forward? Matt asked, preparing to wipe the screens. Silas nodded, checking his weapon one final time. Always. There's more work to be done. The news faded to black as they began planning their next operation. Behind them lay the ruins of those who dared to betray a Marine. Ahead lay new missions, new battles, new chances to prove that loyalty mattered and betrayal carried a price few could afford to pay. Silas Miller had changed, transformed by betrayal into something harder, more dangerous. But he'd found his path, his purpose. In the end, that was all that mattered. The story concluded not with forgiveness or redemption, but with justice served cold. A testament to the price of betrayal and the power of a warrior who refused to be victimized. Silas had emerged victorious, leaving his enemies broken in his wake, a warning to any who might consider crossing him in the future. Some might call it excessive, cruel even, but Silas knew the truth. In war, as in betrayal, there could be no half measures. You either won completely or lost everything. He had won. They had lost. Justice was served. Epilogue. 10 years later, the Federal Women's Correctional Facility stood against the morning sun, its walls containing stories of fallen lives and lost dreams. In cell block D, Betrayal Miller organized her few possessions: a worn paperback, some basic toiletries, letters she'd never answered. After 8 years, she was finally being released. Her reflection in the small metal mirror showed a woman transformed by time and consequences. Gone were the designer clothes and perfect makeup. Her once meticulously maintained blonde hair had grayed at the temples, now pulled back in a simple ponytail. The years of incarceration had stripped away every trace of the socialite she'd once been. "Miller," the guard called out. Processing time. She followed the familiar corridors one last time, passing inmates she'd lived alongside for nearly a decade. Some nodded goodbye. She'd earned a degree of respect by accepting her punishment without complaint, teaching basic literacy classes to other inmates. The processing officer reviewed her file. "Says here you're being released to a halfway house in Nebraska. Pretty far from your old life." "That's the point," Betrayal replied softly. Her voice had lost its entitled edge, replaced by quiet resignation. Her parents wouldn't be waiting outside. Richard Miller had died in prison 3 years into his 20-year sentence for financial crimes. Elizabeth survived in a minimum security facility, a shell of her former self. The Miller family empire had been dismantled, its assets seized, its name synonymous with corruption. The halfway house van waited in the parking lot. Betrayal carried a small bag containing everything she owned in the world. Her release stipend would barely cover basic necessities. The fashion industry had blacklisted her completely. Her only job prospects involved minimum-wage retail work. Across the country, in a maximum security prison, Jackson Jacks, Thorne stared at the ceiling of his cell. 15 years remained on his sentence. His once massive frame had withered without steroids, leaving him looking older than his 45 years. Prison fights and drug withdrawal had taken their toll. His left leg dragged slightly from an untreated injury, and his hands trembled constantly. "Mail call," a guard announced, sliding an envelope through the slot. Jax recognized the law firm's letterhead. Another appeal denied. His attempts to claim mental instability from steroid use had failed repeatedly. The prosecution had used Matt's surveillance recordings to prove his actions were calculated, not impulsive. He pulled out a wrinkled magazine article from under his mattress, one of many he'd collected about Silas over the years. The headline read, "Former Marines Security Firm Disrupts International Crime Ring." The photo showed Silas looking strong and focused, unchanged by time. In a high-tech office building downtown, Silas Miller reviewed operation reports with his team. The small security consulting firm he'd built with Matt had grown into a respected organization, specializing in corporate whistleblower protection and exposing corruption. "The Singapore operation's complete," Matt reported, his hair now streaked with gray, but his mind sharp as ever. "Saved the client's company and exposed 3 corrupt board members." Silas nodded, studying the data on his screens. The years had added a few lines to his face, but his combat-hardened physique remained impressive. Success had brought resources, but he maintained the same disciplined approach that had served him in the Marines. "What about the domestic surveillance?" he asked, pulling up another file. "Betrayal's being released today," Matt confirmed. "Nebraska halfway house is arranged. She'll be monitored but kept far from any potential allies." "And Jax?" "Still locked up. Last appeal denied. He's not getting out early." Silas processed the information without emotion. A decade hadn't softened his stance on betrayal. The company's success allowed him to maintain surveillance on his former enemies, ensuring they could never rebuild their lives enough to seek revenge. "Victor surfaced again," Matt added, referring to Jax's former criminal contact. Tried starting a new steroid distribution ring in Texas. Send the evidence to DEA, Silas commanded. Make sure they understand the connection to our old case. Their reputation had grown in law enforcement circles. Federal agencies often discovered evidence they provided, leading to high-profile arrests. The company's legitimate security work served as cover for more personal missions, identifying and destroying corrupt power structures. In Nebraska, Betrayal settled into her tiny room at the halfway house. The other residents were mostly drug offenders and nonviolent criminals. None recognized the former fashion executive who'd once graced society magazines. She found work at a local discount store, arranging clothing displays. Sometimes, watching customers browse cheap polyester blends, she remembered commanding million-dollar fashion budgets. Those memories felt like scenes from someone else's life. Her parole conditions prevented contact with anyone from her past life. She couldn't return to the city where she'd once reigned as a socialite. Her only updates came from rare news articles. Her mother's failed appeal, the final liquidation of her father's companies, Jax's deteriorating health in prison. At his desk, Silas reviewed a surveillance photo of Betrayal at work. She looked older, humbled, completely stripped of pretense. The image joined others in a secure file, periodic confirmations that justice remained served. Still keeping tabs? Matt asked, noting the open file. Always. Silas's voice held no emotion. Success doesn't mean letting your guard down. The company had expanded internationally, with offices in major cities. Their reputation attracted high-profile clients. Corporations needing protection from internal corruption, whistleblowers facing retaliation, victims of powerful enemies. Each mission followed the template Silas had perfected in his personal vendetta. Gather intelligence, identify vulnerabilities, dismantle support structures, deliver precise strikes. His military background combined with Matt's technical expertise made them practically unstoppable. Some clients questioned their method's intensity. Silas never apologized for thoroughness. He'd learned from experience that half measures left room for enemies to recover and retaliate. In her halfway house room, Betrayal wrote in her journal, part of her mandated therapy. She documented her fall from grace, acknowledged her crimes, explored her motivations. The therapist said writing helped process trauma, but some wounds went too deep for words. She tried contacting her mother once, early in her sentence. The reply came from lawyers. Elizabeth blamed Betrayal for destroying the family, wanted no further communication. The rejection hurt less than expected. Prison had taught her about real loyalty, real friendship, real consequences. Jax's cell walls displayed magazine photos of his glory days. Fitness model shoots, competition victories, celebrity appearances. The images mocked him now. His body, once his source of pride and power, had betrayed him like everyone else. Other inmates avoided him. His reputation for steroid-fueled violence followed him between prisons. Even the gangs kept their distance, viewing him as unstable, unreliable. He spent most days alone, reliving his downfall in endless cycles of rage and regret. In his office, Silas reviewed applications for the company's new cybersecurity division. The business's growth allowed him to help fellow veterans, providing jobs and purpose to those struggling with civilian life. "Remember that kid from 3rd Battalion?" Matt asked, indicating a particular application. "Martinez. Good soldier, solid under pressure. He's finishing his computer science degree. Could be an asset." Silas nodded approval. The company's culture emphasized military values, loyalty, discipline, mission focus. Those who betrayed trust found themselves blacklisted across entire industries. A news alert flashed on Matt's screen. "Victor's been arrested. DEA moved fast on our intel." Good. Make sure the evidence chain is solid. No legal loopholes. They'd refined their methods over the years. Each operation now ended with ironclad cases, ensuring targets faced maximum consequences. The company's success bought political influence, but Silas preferred letting official channels deliver justice. Betrayal's halfway house roommate, a former addict named Sarah, noticed her organizing the store's discount racks. "You've done this before, haven't you? Like, professionally?" Betrayal adjusted a sleeve with practiced care. "Another life. Doesn't matter now. Must have been something big. Way you carry yourself. It was, until I threw it away. The conversation ended there. Brielle had learned to deflect questions about her past. Her therapist called it progress, accepting consequences without self-pity. She called it survival. In his cell, Jax received another visitor, a true crime writer wanting interviews for a book about the case. Not interested, he growled, his voice rough from disuse. It's a chance to tell your side, the writer pressed. People still remember the fitness icon you were. That man's dead. The Marine killed him. The writer left empty-handed. Jax returned to his endless push-ups, trying to maintain some shadow of his former physique. Without steroids, without proper nutrition, it was a losing battle against time and biology. Silas's company landed another major contract, protecting a telecommunications firm from corporate espionage. The client list grew more prestigious each year, but he maintained the same hands-on approach to operations. Intel suggests internal involvement, Matt reported, displaying network analysis. Someone selling company secrets. Start surveillance. Build the case. The usual protocol. Their methods remained consistent. Gather evidence. Identify conspirators. Dismantle networks systematically. Each successful operation enhanced their reputation for thoroughness. After work, Brielle attended mandatory counseling sessions. Today's topic: rebuilding self-worth after incarceration. You're making progress, the counselor noted. Taking responsibility, not making excuses. Prison teaches you about consequences, Brielle replied. Real ones, not just losing social status. Have you thought about contacting family? They made their choice. Like I made mine? The session ended with homework, listing positive goals for the future. Brielle wrote simple things. Maintain employment, stay clean, follow parole requirements. Her ambitions had shrunk to match her circumstances. Jax's prison psychiatrist reviewed his file during their monthly session. Still having revenge fantasies? What else is there? Jax's laugh held no humor. He took everything, left me with memories and hatred. That's not healthy long-term coping. Nothing about this is healthy. Nothing about this is long-term. The psychiatrist noted increased depression, recommended medication changes. Jax ignored the prescriptions like he ignored everything else. His mind remained trapped in the past, reliving his glory days and subsequent destruction. At day's end, Silas secured the office's classified materials. The company had expanded, but maintained military-grade security protocols. Trust earned through loyalty, betrayal punished without mercy. Martinez starts Monday, Matt mentioned. Put him on the Singapore follow-up. Start him small. Test his commitment first. They'd learn to evaluate people carefully, spotting potential betrayal before it materialized. The company's success attracted opportunists, but few survived the vetting process. In her halfway house bed, Brielle dozed fitfully. Dreams mixed past and present. Fashion shows becoming prison corridors, designer gowns turning to orange jumpsuits. She woke repeatedly, reminded that her old life existed only in memory. Jax paced his cell in darkness, 7 steps each way. His thoughts circled endlessly. Past glory, present ruin, future emptiness. The prison psychiatrist called it obsessive rumination. He called it justice. Silas's final victory, playing eternally in his mind. Silas reviewed tomorrow's operation schedule. The company had grown beyond his original vision, becoming a force for justice in its own right. Each mission still followed his core principle: loyalty rewarded, betrayal punished completely. A decade had passed since his personal vendetta, but its lessons shaped everything that followed. Success bought power, power enabled justice. Justice required absolute commitment. No half measures, no mercy for enemies, no forgiveness for betrayal. His phone buzzed, another client requesting help against corruption. He studied the details with professional detachment, already plotting strategy. The past had taught him well, and the future held endless opportunities to apply those lessons. The story's players remained in their assigned roles. Brielle adapting to reduced circumstances, Jax trapped in prison and regret, Silas expanding his influence and power. Justice, once served, maintained its grip eternally. Time had transformed them all, but the fundamental truth remained unchanged. Betrayal carried consequences, and those consequences lasted forever. Silas had made sure of that, and his growing success ensured he could maintain that truth indefinitely. The epilogue ended as it began: Brielle in exile, Jax in prison, Silas in power. A decade's passage hadn't altered the essential outcome. Justice, served cold, remained preserved in ice, unchanging and eternal. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.